Psychologists are one of the most predisposed professions to burnout. A person comes with depression, you have a certain book which you check, and you just do what's written there, the regulation on how to work with people. Psychologists who have blogs on Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
In a way, it contradicts the ethics of being a psychologist, because ideally, I should know nothing about the personal life of my therapist. I don't even know her surname.
So hello to everybody, my name is Daria and welcome to Introwise. Today we have talk with psychologist Angelina Orav. Hi.
Hi, very nice to meet you.
What skill set should a person have just to become a good psychologist? Should it be like a special set of features, character, or I don't know, maybe it must be something else?
To be involved in psychological research, you need analytical skills. It's very similar to what people need for business or economics. You need analytical skills.
So psychology, it's about business.
Yeah, basically, when it comes to analyzing information for research, you need analytical skills. But for practicing psychologist, when you work with people, I think it's definitely the interest in people. So you shouldn't be, cold-blooded. You should have great empathy and communication skills. It's called active listening, when you're able to listen to the person you're talking to, and instead of just going straightly to what's wrong with the person, you just listen and you reflect on what the person is saying together. You have the ability to ask right questions instead of giving the answers. It's all about listening, communication, empathy. Yeah,
but the same we could say about coaching. It is also the same practice. You must ask direct questions. For example, you must use your just quality of listening, but what is the difference when I would like to choose my my profession as psychologist? Maybe there are some more features that I should have to become the specialist in this sphere.
Sure. I think it's not only about the skills, but also about the general preparation. To become a coach, you need to finish the coaching program, and you need to learn the skills. And in order to become a psychologist, you need a fundamental understanding of how people work, because in terms of the problems that people address in coaching, for example, and when they come to a psychologist, they are different. Because when you want to achieve a certain goal, for example, and you do not yet know how, you go to a coach, and together you work on the solutions. And in psychology, there are different branches. It could be, for example, crisis psychology, when a very intense traumatic event happens, and then you should be trained to work with people who experienced a trauma. You should be able to, at the same time, have empathy, but also build like a protection for yourself, because when a person you are working with is telling you scary stories about, child abuse, for example, you should touch on it emotionally, but not be directly involved in it as if it's happening to you. So I think there is a difference in the level of ethics involved, because in coaching you work with the problem itself, and in therapy you work with underlying issues. You don't work with the situation itself. You work with your behavior, the thoughts that you have behind it, because generally the thoughts are the same behind different situations. You work with emotions. Some strands of psychology work with past experiences too. There are many tools, but generally you do not solve the issue itself, but you work on the roots of what's happening.
Angelina, how to choose what would you like to do in psychology field? How to, understand what you really would like to do and what is your path?
The good thing is that, for example, in the UK, your first degree that you get is very fundamental, and you get impression of different fields, and professors tell you about different paths that you can take, about everything that I told you. So then when you get like a theoretical understanding of how different fields work, you can think in your head about whether you want a more medical focused, biology focused profession. But in this case, it wouldn't be holistic or flexible. It's working with really strict regulations. So if you're working as a part of National Health Organization, for example, we have this in the UK, and a person comes with depression, you have a certain book which you check, and you just do what's written there, the regulation on how to work with patients with depression. If you're more holistic in terms of combining different spheres, you want to do psychology and yoga or psychology and mindfulness, I think it's very similar to the US in a way, because it's generally it's the same school. I mean, the same regulations, same educational standards. Almost.
Yeah, but you couldn't, work in UK as a psychologist and in USA.
No, because you have national certifications. So in the US, you can get testing and certification in one state, and you wouldn't. For example, if you got certified in New York, you can only work in New York, but not in California. Here, it's more UK-wide. So if you get trained and you pass all the exams, all the certifications, you have it's called British Psychological Society Association, and you get the membership, and you are allowed on a governmental level to practice. The market is quite wide, but it's also not that easy to get into compared to many post-Soviet countries, for example.
Why?
Because it's not considered a serious profession in terms of education. I know many people, like economists or historians, who just take 2-year online courses. Or 1-year online courses, and then go into psychology and work with people. Here, the standards of ethics are much higher. In the UK, you cannot become a psychologist if you do not have a degree, but not only a bachelor's degree and not even a master's degree, but when we are talking about clinical psychology, for example, or psychology, any psychology, when you work with people one-on-one, so not with a group, but with one person, you should have a PhD, which is a clinical training, which lasts like 5 years in total, where you get placements, you do research, you do the dissertation, and so by the end of this time, you pass very serious examinations. You do supervision, you do your personal therapy.
Yeah, so, as I could just see, it's just like average salary looks like $83,000 a year or something like that. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but despite this fact, there are a lot of information that UK market of psychology is the fastest growing market nowadays. How could you explain it when you couldn't, enter it very quickly, very easily, but it grows?
Yeah, I think it grows because maybe the intensiveness of world problems grows. So it's actually needed, and even though there are many psychologists, more are needed because people face more mental health issues year after year, and world crises happen, like coronavirus, and in coronavirus alone there was a very large increase in people wanting to do psychology, just because, I don't know, when something important happens, I think people want to know more. It's maybe related to my motivation too. So you want to really explore and know why is it happening? Why am I acting like this? Why are people acting like this? So yeah, and also I think it's, even though it's difficult to get into, it's very prestigious here, and it's similar to lawyers a couple of years ago.
Oh, even so it's a great choice to find this path to involve yourself in psychology. But one more thing, we just talked a little bit about coronavirus and all these things that really involve psychology, because much more people have some psychological problems, and I had them after coronavirus. I had this experience and I know what I'm talking about. But the one more thing, on the other hand, we have this situation when online psychology is even more popular, more widespread than just face-to-face. Could you just express your opinion, how it works nowadays in your case?
Yes, sure. I think after coronavirus, especially, it became really popular, and also it never came back to being mostly face to face. So even after lockdown ended, people still continued working online. I think it's not that different, actually. It's easier in terms of transport, easier in terms of your location. You can be anywhere. If you do private practice, so if you have your clients not as a part of an organization but privately, you can choose your schedule, you can go anywhere and just work have a distance work. When you're a part of organization, it's a little bit less flexible, but still there are many roles available in startups, in the companies, when you can work with people online. I think it's a great opportunity.
I have some brand Introwise questions for you, so you could answer them shortly.
Okay.
How did you find your first client?
I started working, it was in a university, so I started volunteering in an organization, and then it was an organization for families and children, and I started to get my supervision there, and then I started working with the kids from that went to this organization.
Why did you become a psychologist? Shortly.
I became a psychologist to help people reach their biggest potential and develop harmoniously.
Okay. Best business advice from you?
I think being reliable, doing the things that you promise to do, not being late, and genuinely having professional ethics.
Okay, best business management advice, time management advice.
Keep your calendar, and when you have an overload of thoughts and plans, just get it out in an app or or just on the paper.
Okay. Do you have Introwise account?
No.
So if you don't mind, we could create it together.
Yes, sure.
Super.